So looking at phylum Nematoda, most of these guys are long and slender and fairly featureless. They are covered with a chemical cuticle. And what that means is these guys are all pretty much parasites. And so they have a chemical cuticle that fools the host into thinking that they are part of the host cells. And that way the host immune system does not attack the nematode. So in your cells you have these markers. They're called self markers, and so you know that it's your skin cell or your brain cell and your immune system doesn't attack it. These guys have a chemical cuticle that mimics that so that the host accepts them. They have a pseudocoel, which means they have a cavity that's lined on one side with mesoderm and with endoderm on the other side, so it's not a true colon. But they also have a digestive tract with a mouth and anus, and this is what distinguishes these guys from your flatworms. If you remember, your flatworms, they have a mouth inside the pharynx, but they lack an anus because waste products just diffuse across their membrane. Since they are so thin and flat, all of their waste gets removed through simple diffusion, so they lack an anus. A lot of these guys are aquatic, and if they're not aquatic, they tend to live in the soil. They molt 4 times generally to get to the adult phase, so they do shed their outer skin. And a lot of them exhibit sexual dimorphism, where they have a larger male than female. Some of these guys, like Trichinella, the females can lay up to 100,000 eggs a day, so they can be very strong reproducers. Trichinella is a nematode that you can get from undercooked meat. It can be deadly. It acts like a virus because it controls the host genes, causes you to have stomach pains, and can eventually lead to kidney and liver failure if left untreated. So here's a look at your Trichinella spiralis larva inside a host organism. You can see this is the trichinella here inside a cyst, and this is muscle tissue that's surrounding it. Here's some more trichinella larvae, 3 of them in cyst and muscle tissue. And here's Ascaris. This is another nematode. You have a male and female. The male is much larger than the female, and the males also have this little crook in their tail right here that you see on the bottom left. So this is a pinworm or Enterobius. This is an intestinal parasite. They live in the intestines, and at night they crawl out the anus to lay eggs and whatever's nearby. In humans, these guys are spread from human to human. The eggs get on pajamas and on bed sheets, toys and the like. They can even become airborne. If you flick your sheets, it gets the eggs airborne, and so you can pass them from one human to the next. The females, like I said, they'll crawl out of the intestines at night to lay the eggs, and then they crawl back in. The eggs, once they hatch, will then travel up and crawl back into the intestines through the anus. You can catch these guys by applying Scotch tape to the area and use that to diagnose an infection. But like I said, these guys, they're pretty asymptomatic other than they cause itching in that region, and they are one of the most common parasitic infections in humans from nematodes. So here's hookworms. These are another intestinal parasite. If humans, they usually cause mild diarrhea and cramping, so not anything really horrible symptomatically. You get these guys from walking on dirt that's been contaminated with fecal matter, and they can actually burrow in through the skin, and you'll notice the scary looking teeth in their mouth structure that allow them to do so. So this is Wolcaria bancrofti, probably the scariest nematode parasite we'll look at. This guy is spread through mosquitoes. An infected mosquito bites you, and you end up with the parasite in your bloodstream. It attacks your lymph system, and West Nile is nothing compared to this guy. So be glad that we do not have this parasite as a problem in the States, at least not at the moment. So here's Wolcaria bancrofti inside a host tissue. Like I said, it's very hard to get rid of this organism attacks your lymphatic system, which is your immune system. It gets inside your lymph nodes, and once there's very limited treatments available, and it's fairly difficult to, if not impossible, to get rid of. So here's what happens from a Wolkaria bancrofti infection. It gets into the lymph nodes, and whatever appendage those lymph nodes happens to be in tends to swell up to many times larger than its natural size, and this is called elephantitis. This is the results of a Wolkaria bancrofti infection. And these two are actually fairly mild. I've seen much worse cases than this. It's extremely painful, and generally the way they treat it is through amputation when it gets too bad. And you can see in the picture on the bottom right, the reason it's got colored marks on it is this person was actually going in to have some amputation done to remove some of this excess tissue.